Hello everyone, Oregon Moto John. I'm just showing you why you want to change your oil early on in the cycle of a 4-stroke. So here we have 27 miles on this, it's been a lot of fun, 2025 390 Enduro R. And just as I did the same thing on my Honda 300L, when I get a bike, usually around 50 miles, you know, this one's at basically 30, I'll change the oil, and then I'll do that again around a couple hundred miles, and then I'll switch to more of a normal oil change interval. And I know that sounds crazy, but this is why I do it. So I've pulled, you can see I've spared you guys watching me pull all the filters and screens out. But when you come over to this, you can see there's lots of particles in here. Some of it's just, you know, break-in stuff, probably harmless. But you can see there's quite a bit of, you know, debris in here that's even coming off. See, it's wiping off onto this rag. It's not oil, it's just metal debris and shavings and things. So get that out of your engine. It doesn't want to be in there. Now this one looks good, pretty good, but there's still a few little shavings on there, as you can see. Nothing, again, this is normal. There's not a problem with this. And I saw some debris coming out in the oil that I'll try to catch when I pour into a container for you. But this is why you do it. Catching that debris. Why have it running around in your motor for 1,000 miles? Get it out of there. And then, oh, got some chunks there. I don't know. What is that? Oh, see, even silicone. That's just some silicone from, you know, the engine's put together. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not a problem. As this filter dries out, it'll be easier to see some of the metal particulates in there. I'm not seeing anything unusual in here, which is good. Okay. But anyway, get that stuff out of your engine, especially that larger stuff that's getting caught in your screens. Why? I mean, that is like, you know, some of it's just kind of, ooh, yeah, this is definitely kind of little flecks of metal. So get that out of your motor. All right, it's up to you. Oil's pretty cheap. Just going to clean these screens with some contact cleaner and some air, dry them out, and put it all back together with a new filter and some fresh oil. You know, take care of your engine. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in there, and I can honestly say, other than having to rebuild a 2-stroke after normal wear and tear, I've never had, but that's a 2-stroke. With a 4-stroke, I've never had to rebuild the engine or go inside of it. So, I think this works. I think being really fastidious with your oil changes, especially early on, I think it works. So here's what these look like now that they're clean. You can see they actually, when I was blasting off, especially this screen, it was really, really dirty. I mean, lots of stuff on it. But again, I'm not worried about it. This is normal break-in material. There wasn't anything big, just little chunks. And then, you know, if you look in this filter, I'm glad I'm changing it. I mean, there's a lot of break-in material in here. Let's see. Well, it's going to be hard for you guys to see, but there's just little pieces of, yep, here we go. See, just normal break-in stuff in there. Can you see it? Okay, yeah, you don't want that stuff in your motor. It's small, it's what it's supposed to be. But if you look at it, that's a lot of stuff. Each pleat, you know. Again, normal break-in material, but get that stuff out of your motor. Yeah, look, every pleat has a little bit of just small particles. You can see. That one's not so bad. See, just little particles. See, get that stuff out of there. Do a break-in oil change around. They say you don't need to do that anymore, but I disagree because of what I've seen. I'll usually see this happen the first 50 to 100 miles. I'll change it, and then I'll change it around 200 to 300. Maybe sometimes I'll wait till 500 miles, and then again I'll switch to a more of a normal interval. You can see some shiny shavings just here where that oil filter was sitting. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. It may not show up on video, but there's a lot of little shavings just from where this was sitting. So yeah, we want that stuff out of the motor. But if you don't, I wouldn't be overly concerned about it, because this filter is catching it. These filters are catching it. So in a sense, the filters are doing their job. So, you know, there is that. So, if, you know, that is a valid point. But I would just rather get that stuff out, because I found that as I do this process, eventually all this stuff starts coming out clean, even with a normal interval. There's the filter that this took. 90138015000 or 5000. So make sure you have one of those on hand, and the 1550 recommended motorcycle oil. So I'm going to try to catch the oil pour, but you can see where that oil filter was just sitting to drain. There was a lot of particles there. So now let's see what we got here. And the oil looks fine itself, you know, but I mean, look at all the metal particulates there. And that stuff just needed to come out. And I did wipe this out. See all that stuff? And again, that's normal break-in particulate. Pouring this with one hand while I'm filming is definitely testing my skills, which are minimal. You can see a little orange flecks of paint there, so that's kind of cool. That's how you know it's a KTM. Yeah, and look at all the little stuff. Again, those are teeny little break-in particles. I'm not worried about it, but why leave that in your engine? Just see, there they go. More. Look at all that. Again, I'm not trying to say there's a problem. I don't want anybody to be upset or panicky. The filter is catching this stuff, but this is the stuff that's coming out in the oil. You don't want that stuff in there, and this is not specific to this bike. This is pretty much any bike I've owned. This is the way it goes. Okay, so there you have it. Normal break-in material. Don't panic if you see that. Now, if you see large chunks that are big, then you know that's a different story. But see all that little fine debris. Okay, especially with your 4-stroke motors. You don't want that stuff running around in your precious motor. You want to get it out of there. And now we have some nice clean oil in there. And again, I'm not picking on KTM. This happened with my Honda. A similar process. My Yamaha's very similar when it's a new break-in. And this is like the first 30 to 50 miles, 30 to 100 miles. Sometimes I'll go 200 miles, but I always do a break-in oil change. And then you'll find the next oil change, there'll be hardly any. And then the third oil change, you'll find there's pretty much nothing. Not to belabor the point too much, but people talk about, hey, modern design, modern manufacturing, you don't need to do that break-in oil change anymore. But with what I just poured out of that oil pan into the oil, what do you think? Is there break-in material in there? I think there was. And I think that's very normal. I mean, with a motorcycle, you know, you have your clutch baskets probably breaking in a little bit. You know, new clutch parts. You have all the gears and the transmission. All of those are breaking in. So, you know, there is a lot to break in a motorcycle. All the upper end there, the timing chain and cams, and not to mention pistons and rings and all that. So, might as well get all that. I can't imagine leaving that in there for like 1,000 miles, or just get it out of there. You could probably go 100 miles or a couple hundred miles and get it, you know, do a break-in oil change. But personally, after 30 miles, I'm very happy to get all that out of there. And if you do it yourself, an oil change is cheap. And stay tuned. I'm going to, next oil change that I'll do and get another 100, 200 miles on here, I'll do it. And then I'll film the next one. But I like to do the first one to learn on it, how to do it. But this is very easy. Everything's accessible. You don't even have to remove the skid plate to do the oil change. You just have to make sure you have the oil and the filter ahead of time, but really easy to do. So for what it's worth, I'm going to throw these away soon. Just was waiting to do kind of a video on it. So here's my Honda 450 RL, my 20. 25 Honda 450 RL. The oil changes, so my first oil change done at 61 miles, and then 300 miles, and then 600, and then 1100. Now I switched to a normal interval, so you can see in here, normal break-in material in the filter. You can see it in the pleats there. Nothing severe, but you know, there's debris. You can see it. And that was at, I think, 61 miles. Yep. Okay, now look at 300 miles. How much less? Considerably less. You can still see a few things in there, chunks, but they're again, normal braking material, no concern. Now look 300 miles later. I don't see any. Maybe now and then a few, but very little. So that's 61 miles, 300, 600, and then basically 500 to 600 miles later. This is at 1100 miles, and again, I'm not finding anything, even with more miles on that oil change. And then, so now I know I can switch to a normal interval, and life is good. So anyway, something you can do if you want, and I don't know, I may or may not do it with this. That was more of my experiment. This, you know. Anyway, hope this was useful. You guys with 4 strokes, I don't think it's going to hurt anything, especially if you're doing it yourself. If you go to a dealer and show them this, they'll think you're nuts. So I would, I wouldn't go to a dealer and tell me one oil change at 60 miles or 30 miles like I did. They'd probably wonder if you had lost your mind. Maybe I have. And remember, I'm a random guy on YouTube, so maybe I have lost my mind and I'm just making videos in my garage. So something to consider. All right, hope this was useful. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. And I'd just like to clarify too, I'm not saying you have to do this with your bikes. If you follow the manufacturer's recommendations, usually they do have an early oil change, like around 1,000 miles. I'm sure that's adequate. So don't want anybody to panic. If you don't do this, you're not going to damage your motor. But more my point is, why wait all that time when you could have that stuff, debris running around in your motor, when you could get it out early? And as kind of my filter showed, even by the second time, so it may not need that 1,000 miles to get rid of all that stuff. Even by the second time, most of the debris is gone. And this has been my experience with my my KTMs, Hondas, Husqvarna, Yamaha. I mean, it didn't seem to matter what bike it was. Some have a little more than others, but they all have a certain amount. So yeah, I don't think it's going to hurt anything. But other than maybe, you know, the cost of the oil change, you know, the oil in the filter, which is relatively cheap. Motors are expensive, so and it is nice knowing that when you do that a time or two, pretty soon all that fluid comes out clean, and it's good feeling knowing your engine is clean on the inside. Stay tuned, like and subscribe. I'm going to do a full review on this bike, all the specs and what I think of it compared to the Honda 300 RL, which I do still really like, and I have some more content coming with that. There's some things planned for the suspension on the 300 RL, or on the 300L. But anyway, yeah, I'll do a review of this bike. I did a quick, 30 miles on it yesterday, and I'm really impressed. I mean, very, very impressed. All right, so feel free to stay tuned, and more to come.